Let me ask you something. If you're the captain of a cricket team, or maybe the CEO of a big company, and you keep losing, what happens? Well, you're replaced, right? It's just how it works. But does that same rule apply in politics? Especially when you've got one of the most famous last names in the entire country? That's the really provocative question we're digging into today. Okay, let's just jump right in. The source material for this explainer starts with a pretty shocking claim. I mean, wow. This is the central idea we're going to unpack. The argument that for Indian democracy, and especially the opposition, to get stronger, its most famous face actually needs to step down. It's a huge statement, so let's break down how they get there. And just so we're all on the same page, it's super important to know that the perspective we're exploring comes directly from a video by the YouTube channel Mohik Mangal. Our whole goal here is just to lay out their argument, using the story and the information that they presented. So to really get this, we've got to go way back to the beginning. The source frames Rahul Gandhi's early years not as this straight shot to power, but more like the story of a reluctant prince, a young man who was shaped by unbelievable tragedy and who, for a long time, seemed to want nothing to do with the world he was born into. This timeline, man, it really paints a picture. He's born into India's most powerful political family, but then his childhood is completely turned upside down. His grandmother, the prime minister, is assassinated. Then his father, also prime minister, is assassinated. He's forced to live his life under a constant security threat. And check this out. After university, he doesn't join the family business, so to speak. He works in London, then starts his own tech firm in Mumbai. For years, his path was heading away from politics. And here's where you can really see that hesitation. Publicly, he kept his distance, saying stuff like, "Just because I'm not against politics doesn't mean I'm going to join." And that was backed up by what people saw in private. The famous economist Amartya Sen even said that from his conversations, it was clear Rahul Gandhi had no plans to enter politics. The vibe was, this guy has other ideas for his life. So, what changed? Well, according to him, this was the moment, the turning point. A moment of incredible grief on a train with his father's ashes that became this moment of clarity. The source presents this as the instant where the sheer weight of his family's legacy and this feeling of duty finally won out over his own personal reluctance. And so he enters politics. But this next chapter, his first 10 years as a member of parliament, is framed by the source as, well, a decade of waiting. A time when everyone expected him to grab the reins, but it just didn't quite happen. So how'd he do in that first term? Let's look at the numbers. His attendance was 63%. He took part in 5 debates, and he asked just 3 questions over 5 years. The source uses these stats to suggest a pretty quiet start for a guy everyone saw as a future leader. Okay, but then in his second term, wow, the numbers really take a nosedive. His attendance drops to just 43%. I mean, that's way below the national average of 76%. He was in only 2 debates. And maybe most striking of all, he asked 0 questions. The source points to this data to build its case that he was becoming more and more disengaged. Now here's the thing, and this is super important. He knew it. He was totally aware of the whole dynasty problem. He says it right here, admitting his privilege and promising to be the one who changes the system from the inside. A really powerful statement. But did his actions match his words? And boom, right away, we see this gap between what he said he wanted and what actually happened. His big idea to fight dynasty was to have internal party elections. But in the very first major test in Punjab, who wins? The grandson of a former chief minister, backed by another powerful political family. It seemed like the old system was just too strong to break. All right, now this next moment is a big one. It's 2013, and his own party's government brings in this super controversial ordinance. What did it do? Basically, it was a way to stop politicians who'd been convicted of crimes from getting kicked out of office. You can imagine this did not go over well with the public. And then, completely out of the blue, Rahul Gandhi holds a press conference and just publicly demolishes his own government's policy. He calls it complete nonsense. The source points to this as a rare, decisive moment. It proved he could be forceful and take a stand, which also made people wonder why they didn't see that side of him more often. This brings us to the next big chapter, and this is where things really change for him and for his party. This period covers 2 huge election losses and his brief and pretty chaotic time as the president of the Congress Party. Yikes. I mean, just look at these numbers. In 2014, the Congress Party just gets decimated. They're reduced to their lowest number of seats ever, just 44. It was like a political earthquake. And then in 2019, things barely got better for them, while the BJP actually got even stronger. And it wasn't just about the party nationally. It hit him personally, right in his own backyard. This number here, that's the drop in his victory margin in Amethi, his family's political fortress, between 2009 and 2014. It was a huge warning sign that even in his safest seat, the ground was shifting under his feet. And this quote from a voter in his hometown, reported by the Indian Express, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures this growing feeling that just having the right last name wasn't going to be enough anymore. And that feeling is exactly what led to his own personal defeat in Amethi in 2019. So after that massive 2019 loss, he did the honorable thing, right? He took responsibility and offered to resign. But what happened next was kind of chaotic. The party said no, so he went on Twitter and basically forced them to accept it. But what was the result? A leadership vacuum. His mother had to step back in as a temporary president, and it took over 3 years for the party to finally elect a new leader who wasn't a Gandhi. Okay, let's zoom in a little. To really understand the source's critique of his political style, let's look at one specific issue. The source uses his focus on farmers as a perfect case study. So here's the deal. In the 2018 Rajasthan elections, the promise was big: a complete farm loan waiver for all farmers. Sounds great. But the reality? Well, once they were in power, it was a much, much smaller waiver that didn't cover the loans for the vast majority of farmers. And according to a later survey, that gap between the promise and the reality really came back to bite them in the next election. And this take from a political heavyweight like Pranab Mukherjee, who was president of India, it kind of sheds some light on this pattern. The source uses this quote to suggest a style of politics that's wide but not very deep. It's like he's interested in a lot of things, but maybe he jumps from issue to issue so quickly that he doesn't stick with any one thing long enough to truly see it through. So we've walked through his whole career, right from the beginning through his performance in parliament, the election results, his policy ideas, and it all leads back to this one big unanswered question that the source keeps coming back to. And here it is, the core of the whole argument. The source isn't saying he's a bad person. In fact, they point out he's known for being kind. This is about professional accountability. Think about it. In almost any other field, if you have a decade of losses and your influence keeps shrinking, there's going to be a change in leadership. So the simple question the source asks is, why is politics the exception? And that's what it all boils down to. After seeing the whole story laid out, the career path, the election results, the policy issues, we're left with this one final, powerful question. Is a political legacy a qualification for leadership? Or can it, as the source suggests, actually become a shield that protects someone from accountability? The explainer lays out the case, but leaves that final decision up to you.